Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host, Daniel Green, and today we are going to be changing things up a little bit. I'm basically just going to try to restructure the news and take the biggest story of the week, put it at the front, and see if it changes the analytics at all. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like, because that's how the algorithm remembers I exist. And while we're talking about change, I also have a new video series idea I wanted to run by the goblins. There are basically 1,000 books at the top of my TBR that I really want to get to, and regularly to figure out which one I want to start, I'll read a bunch of chapter 1s until something really grabs me. If something does, I then finish the book and you get a review here on the channel. But I was thinking, why not record reading the first chapter, kind of do a narration of it and give my thoughts. That way I can say at the end whether it did or didn't hook me and whether or not you'll be getting a full review. And then you all can have a place to come where there are a bunch of chapter 1s being read through and given thoughts on, so you can help decide, okay, actually that book I've been interested in, I do want to check it out after hearing it's chapter 1. I don't know, does that sound dumb or not? It also seems like a good way to get some indie books a lot of attention without having to commit myself to read a ton of indie books that may otherwise not get a ton of attention. And full business transparency, it also then primes a bunch of my audience to then want to come and check out a full review once I do finish the book. Does that make sense? It was just an idea that I didn't want to spring on you without a warning. But now, let's hop into the rest of the fantasy news. Starting with the big video game news of the week, and that is that Larian Studios is not planning on making a Baldur's Gate 4, and in fact, it seems they are wanting to leave the Dungeons & Dragons IP behind them. I think like a lot of people, when I first heard this, my gut reaction is, no. I still consider Baldur's Gate 3 possibly my favorite game of all time. I cannot stop playing it, but I might be even more excited to see what Larian Studios could get involved with next. They specifically say in this article that they are not entirely sure where they're going to go next. With their reputation, critical and commercial success, there is essentially an endless list of IPs that would be thrilled to have Larian Studios take a crack at their product. You kind of nihilistically have to remember that all art is inherently a product now, but it is cool to think that with Larian Studios being at this all-time high in terms of notoriety, they could really get handed something extraordinary, something that would have been considered beyond their reach before. Not that they weren't anything, but right now they're on top. I was definitely bummed to hear they're not planning on releasing any Baldur's Gate 3 expansions or DLC. They will keep patching it, which is great, but even as I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 now, I find myself wondering, what other world could benefit from this level of detailed treatment? Cosmere, Malazan, of course, that's where my head goes, but I'm sure there's people who would push for something superhero related or even Star Warsian. If it wasn't for that Dune MMORPG that's coming out, I would love to push them in that direction. But I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below and upvote the ones you agree with, see if we can get some kind of consensus going here. What would be the ultimate IP, the perfect fit for Larian Studios to marry with next? Or would you like to even see them do something original? Baldur's Gate 3 is essentially the best you could do that concept with that IP in this generation of gaming. A Baldur's Gate 4, do you really want to try and one-up that? Now, taking the studio side completely out of the equation, there is some bad news here, because I doubt Hasbro will let the specific Baldur's Gate IP rest. They've made an ungodly amount of money off of 3, so that means they will likely be looking for a new company to try and push forward for a 4th game. No one is certain about that. These decisions probably haven't even been made, but it seems unlikely they would just let that lie. Ugh. I don't want to think about that though, so let's go ahead and talk about some badass cover reveals, starting with one from Keshi Chow for The Girl with No Reflection, with cover art by Mikola Alciano. The book is described as, Ying Yi believed in love once. Yet, when she's chosen to wed the crown prince, Ying's dream of a fairy tale marriage fall apart. Her husband-to-be is cold and indifferent, confining Ying to her room for reasons he won't explain. And whispers swirl of 7 other brides who mysteriously disappeared after their own weddings. And it will be released August of this year, and I have a few things to say about this cover. One, I'm seeing this style in general used more and more, but I really dig it. It provides this more expansive, vibrant palette of colors, and maybe most importantly of all, this specific style does a really good job of standing out against the cacophony of like solid white and black books we've been getting recently with very minimal designs. But more importantly, the title is The Girl with No Reflection, yet the girl has a reflection. The Fishlax one And to the keen-eyed observer, you'll notice, so does the bird. There was a mystery in the blurb, and now certainly a mystery in the cover. Is it a female fish, and therefore the fish is the titular girl? Are we about to get aquatic? I don't know. And I'll have to wait to August to find out. But that brings us to our next cover, which is for the Bloodless Princess by Charlotte Bond, with cover art by Martina Fakova. And I have a lot harder time with this kind of verging into photorealistic, for me, kind of uncanny valley art style. I think this is a good rendition of it. What makes this one work, in my opinion, though, is in the details. One, tiny cat with wings is a win, and the costuming is great. And I think that's why Martina was a great pick for this specific cover, because if you go to their catalog, they really do seem to thrive at making this style come to life. But in the last piece of full book news, John Gwynn has taken to Twitter to announce, I thought some of you might like to know that a week or so ago, I finished writing The Fury of the Gods, the third and final part of the Bloodsworn saga. The last 2.5 years have been indescribably awful. John Gwynn then went on a thread where he talked about losing one of his children and how unbelievably hard that has been. And I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to narrate it for you here. I would highly recommend going to check it out. Links, of course, for every story we talk about are down in the description. He touched on, though, how you're never able to get over grief, and instead it's just about navigating your new reality a lot of the time. And I just can't think of anything else to actually say here that feels right. So I just want to say all the love in the world from myself, and I know the Horde as well, to John Gwynn and his family, and just absolutely check out this incredible man's books if you have not already. But then this next story is going to be for those who have followed me on the hype train for the Suneater series, because we have gotten an interquel from Christopher Rocchio that will take place after the last book, Ashes of Man, and before the next, Disquiet Gods. I cannot say too much more about it due to spoiler concerns, but I will say, yes, I will get to Disquiet Gods as soon as I can. I'm just still dealing with severe wrist pain to the point where holding stuff for long periods of time still can hurt and sucks, so I'm having to stick to audiobooks, and it doesn't have an audiobook right now. That is why the last few book reviews you've gotten from me, I've talked about the audio experience. The takeaway: when a doctor tells you to stop doing something like signing stuff, stop. Haha, I'm dumb. But if you want one of those signed copies of Neon Ghost, it's still available on BackerKit. Link in the description down below. But first, I want to give a big thank you to today's sponsor, Wild Crown, the new specialized merch branch of Wraithmark Creative. Because to celebrate Immalong's Sword of Kaigen, they have put together a series of limited edition pins. Each pin is made with cloisonné hard enamel for superior durability and includes 2 clasps for secure attachment to your jacket, pin board, or wherever you choose to hang them. Here, we like to hang our pins right here. Can you see it? That's our pin board. They measure in about 1.5 inches, so you can figure out where to place them, and come with the signature Wild Crown logo emblazoned on the back. Every pin is designed and colored by Christina Hassan, with feedback directly from the author herself to capture her vision. And if you're looking to get the full set, it comes in at $45 US, plus shipping and handling. Oh god, I never had to say any of the detailed names of the Sword of Kaigen world out loud, so we're gonna try and do my best. I didn't even do the audiobook for this one, so let's see. You'll not only get the Siradinya hair ornament and the Kyagetsu pin, but you'll also get the pack-exclusive Memorican pin. The third pin isn't just super cool, it also comes serialized, so that each one is unique to the backer that receives it. And for those of you a bit extra interested, Wild Crown also has a limited variety of the proto pins. There are only 100 of these for sale though, so if you want one, get them while you can. Of course, stretch goals are there to unlock more wonderful things, and the pin pack backers also receive an included sticker sheet. No need to buy it as an add-on. So be sure to head on over to Kickstarter today and begin your pin collecting, or continue it with the Sword of Kaigen collection. It's right there in the description and pinned comment. Goodbye, back to the news. Flying on over into the adaptation news, we first have to talk about the upcoming adaptation for The Neverending Story is getting a film series from Seesaw Productions, with the original author's estate and production company also attached. I was actually under the impression before I looked into this story that the Neverending franchise Fantastica, Oh, is that what it's called? I forget. Yeah, Fantastica has been kind of just resting dormant since the cult classic movie was released, but that's actually not true. And I don't know, I just don't want to fall into the trap of just being inevitably negative about any attempt at adapting something that has had a somewhat positive adaptation before. And with the production company involved that has solid titles under its belt, the author's original estate attached, and not just trying to do one film, but a film series, a different initial intent than the first adaptation, I could see myself getting excited for this.
He said with the most flat, dead, soulless gaze his eyes had held it his entire life.
The press release for this was filled with the typical, oh, I've been a fan for so long now that I'm attached quotes and, promises of quality and guarantee. But from there we have a bit of Wheel of Time quickie news, because we have officially seen it announced from the cast that season 3 has wrapped filming. My own personal prediction, I don't think we've gotten a release date yet for this season, is that we will not be getting it until 2025. I'd love to be proven wrong though and see it in 2024. And if you'd like some more Wheel of Time in your life while you're waiting for season 3 to drop, please go ahead and check out my deep dive into the history of Red Eagle Entertainment / iWatt's handling of the Wheel of Time IP rights and how they are responsible for us getting to where we are today. It's probably the second highest effort video on my channel this year, outside of the Fringe one, and the response to it's been great, so thank you everyone who's already checked that out. Now, if you're a D&D fan who has been sitting and stewing since about 5-10 minutes ago when I told you that,
Larian
Studios might not be working with your favorite IP anymore, well, don't worry, because another major company known for its quality is stepping into the D&D space, and that would be LEGO, who put out a tweet saying, "All right, D&D and LEGO fans, no joke, landing April 1st, a set that brings boundless adventures and endless play together. That and a bunch of legendary creatures. Don't miss out. Hashtag LEGO D&D." And after triple checking to make sure this isn't some elaborate prank, it does seem to be like the perfect match. D&D and LEGO. I mean, I'm surprised we don't already have like LEGO kits you can buy that are meant to be like for campaigns in terms of having very changeable environments and stuff like that. Or I guess you do, and that's just like a nature set and a castle. Why isn't LEGO used way more commonly with D&D? All that's left for us to figure out is just how much of our own blood we have to sell to afford these sets. Skipping on away though from the physical toy world over to the streaming world, yes, the trailers were dropped for House of Dragon Season 2, and I said trailers because one was for Team Black and the other Team Green, which even though I share a name with them, objectively the worst team. Everyone goes Team Black. Are you kidding me? And if you missed my live reaction that I streamed a couple days ago, I'm sorry I had to remove it. YouTube decided to copyright strike it despite it being a reaction video to a trailer, both of which should make it fair use. I disputed it, lost the dispute, wanted to appeal it, but then remembered that means I could flush my channel away, and I don't want to risk that. I'm willing to risk it for the Fringe video, not willing to risk it, that had to go away. But summarizing my thoughts, it looked really good, and I'm just impressed at how amazing these dragons look. Still like me some thick dragons. And even though my favorite character can't be in season 2, I am even more excited for it. Emma Darcy, Millie Alcock, Matt Smith, and so many others have just proven that despite the turbulence the franchise has had, the iconic approach to characters that George R. R. Martin is so good at can still translate strongly enough to the screen. You get what I'm trying to say. I'm just gonna end it there and we're gonna move on. And we also got the trailer for the cult classic sequel, BeetleJuice, and this one immediately I had kind of conflicting feelings on, but honestly trending in the positive direction. Don't get me wrong, there are red flags with a sequel to a movie that captured a specific feeling that hasn't really been captured since being remade, but it has have Tim Burton returning to it. And Michael Keaton will be taking on the role again, as well as a large amount of the original cast coming back, most of whom have continued to deliver stellar performances throughout their careers. And the additional castings we've seen have been pretty great. I do think Tim Burton has certainly had some stumbles in his career, but the more constrained setting of the house in BeetleJuice could actually be an opportunity for him to rein in his visual style and ground it better so that we, the audience, can become really immersed in his insane vision to a greater effect than we've often seen recently with Tim Burton. Or it could just totally leave the house behind, go in the CGI messy, disgusting direction, and everyone be miserable. I'm really hopeful that it won't though, and this trailer was entertaining, no doubt. And the slowed down version of the original song is such a cliche, but it kind of worked here. But our penultimate trailer of the day is going to be one that I want to not be hurt by because it looked good, but I have a feeling I might be. And that would be the trailer for Alien Romulus. It looks like a badass trailer. I'm not even gonna attempt to deny that. Looks really cool. So have a lot of trailers for this franchise, but I don't want to see Alien go away. I want to see what happened with Predator happen here again. Last Predator movie, pretty damn cool. And there are absolutely still plenty of brilliant ideas to be mined out in this corporate horror space exploration setting. The xenomorph design is still ahead of the curve when it comes to creature design all these years later. And Alien Isolation proved that if you take a new approach to living in this world, the scares can feel fresh. We just have to wait and see if it can live up to Alien 1 and 2, which Kayla and I have rewatched both of recently, and especially Alien 2 is just a f***ing blast. Can we get back to that? But in the final trailer story of the day, we got the trailer for Rebel Moon 2, which provided just as much character depth as the entire first Rebel Moon movie. How that was accomplished, no idea. And it looks exactly like you'd expect it to look like. A bunch of slow-mo sequence shots that will be the focal point, the center of the soul of the second film in the Rebel Moon franchise. And I've only gotten more negative on the movie the further I've gotten from it. Before we get into the Indie Pub promo though, I would just like to say that fellow booktuber and author Brian Lee Durfee is apparently currently in the hospital. There was a post on his Facebook page essentially asking everyone to keep Brian in their thoughts, so please do so. I've always enjoyed the interactions I've had with Brian, and he's been a huge inspiration to my channel career as well, so check out his channel if you haven't already. And in a very last-minute fantasy news update, I'm happy to say that we have seen apparently Brian Lee Durfee have a successful surgery, and he's now up and conscious, so I'm very happy to be able to say things are looking better. But now we are going to be promoting a book from within the Goblin Horde in this week's Indie Pub promo.
And today's Indie Pub promo is Flames Over Frosthelm, Book 1 in the Inquisitors Guild series by Dave Dobson. Pitched as a detective story set in the city of Frosthelm, filled with humor, and for those who love Princess Bride meets CSI. Martin Mingenstern and Boog Eggstrom are provisional inspectors, fresh out of Inquisitors Guild training. Assigned a mundane task tracking down stolen jewels, they instead uncover a mysterious cult set on destroying the city. They earn the enmity of a vicious noble, the chief inquisitor gets brought off and goes rogue, barbarians seize them, and they are sentenced to death. Twice. In a race against prophecy, they face terrible forces long buried.
This has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Thank you so much to Wraithmark Creative for sponsoring today's video, and it is your last day to get any of the merch down below. That shelf's going to be empty after today, so if you'd like to get yourself a Goblin Horde tee, be sure to do it before midnight Eastern Standard Time. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.